The crystalline spear shattered into 1,000 glittering fragments, and Knight Commander Velatha knew she was going to die. Around her, the Crushar war beasts circled like predators, savoring their kill. Their chitinous armor gleamed under the crimson sun of Thalvarax Prime. Mandibles clicked in what passed for laughter among their kind. 30 of them, maybe more. She had lost count after the first wave had torn through her battalion. Velatha's forearms hung limp at her sides, her azure blood seeping from a dozen wounds. The proud warrior of the Velcan Imperium, decorated champion of 3 stellar campaigns, reduced to this. Alone, broken, and waiting for the end. The largest car stepped forward, its compound eyes reflecting her battered form 100 times over. It raised its scythe-like forelimb for the killing blow. Then the sky screamed. Something punched through the atmosphere with a sound like reality tearing apart. A streak of fire carved across the heavens. Before Velatha could process what was happening, a figure crashed into the ground between her and the war beast with enough force to crater the earth and send the Crushar stumbling backward. Dust billowed outward. In the settling cloud, a shape rose. Bipedal, small by galactic standards, encased in scratched and scorched armor that had clearly seen better days. The helmet retracted with a hiss, revealing a face unlike any Velatha had encountered in her 70 cycles of life. Pale skin marked with scars. 2 eyes, just 2, that sparkled with something between madness and joy. Hair the color of burnt copper, cropped short and matted with sweat. And that smile, by the old stars, that insane smile. "Mind if I join the fight?" the human asked, her voice carrying an accent Velatha's translator struggled to place. Earth. Perhaps that backwater death world on the Imperium's outer rim. The Crushar commander chittered something that the translator rendered as confused outrage. Who was this creature that dared interrupt their hunt? The human didn't wait for pleasantries. She reached behind her back and drew. Velatha's eyes widened. It was a primitive kinetic weapon, the kind her people had abandoned millennia ago in favor of plasma and energy-based armaments. Projectile thrower. But the way the human held it, checked it with practiced efficiency, suggested this was no museum piece. "So here's the thing," the human said conversationally, as if she wasn't outnumbered 30 to 1 by creatures that could rip through battle steel. "I was supposed to be doing orbital recon. Nice, safe, boring. Then my ship got hit and I had to eject. And wouldn't you know it, I land right in the middle of." She gestured vaguely at the Crushar. "Whatever this is." The Crushar commander screeched and charged. What happened next would haunt Velatha's memory for the rest of her long life. The human moved like liquid lightning. She pivoted, dropped, rolled, and came up firing. The primitive weapon barked, a sound so crude and visceral that it seemed obscene compared to the refined hum of energy weapons. But each bark meant death. Precision shots, one after another, found joints and chitinous armor, eyes, and the soft flesh beneath mandibles. 3 Crushar fell in as many seconds. The pack exploded into motion, converging from all sides. The human laughed. Actually laughed. She holstered her projectile weapon. From her thigh, she drew a blade. Not a vibro knife or a plasma cutter, but a simple steel blade with a wicked curve. She met the first war beast head-on, sliding beneath its scythe strike and opening its thorax from joint to joint. Black ichor sprayed. She spun, using the dying creature's momentum to vault onto another's back, driving the blade down through its neural cluster. Collapsed, and she was already moving, already flowing toward the next target. Velatha had trained in 17 combat forms across 9 different worlds. She had studied under weapons masters and tactical geniuses. But this was something else entirely. This wasn't technique. This was chaos given purpose. Violence elevated to art. Desperation transformed into dance. The human fought like she had nothing to lose and everything to prove. She fought like her entire species' reputation hung on every strike, every shot, every breath. And perhaps, Velatha thought dimly as feeling began returning to her limbs, it did. Humans were new to the galactic stage. Their world had been quarantined for centuries after first contact, deemed too dangerous for integration. They evolved on a planet that tried to kill them every day. Extreme weather, aggressive predators, diseases that would have driven other species to extinction. They were weaker than most species, smaller than many, with none of the natural weapons or armor that evolution had granted the rest of the galaxy. But they refused to die. The human ducked beneath a scythe that would have decapitated her, drove her blade into the attacker's leg joint, and used the embedded weapon as a pivot point to swing her entire body around and kick another Cruciar in what Velatha assumed was its equivalent of a face. She hit the ground, rolled, came up with her projectile weapon again, and fired twice. 2 more war beasts dropped. Velatha realized she was staring. She also realized she was no longer simply waiting to die. Her secondary heart began pumping combat stimulants into her system, a last-ditch biological function she had thought had failed. Sensation flooded back to her arms. The human shot her a glance. "You planning to nap through this? Or do you want in?" Something fierce and primal surged through Velatha's chest. She bared her teeth, all 4 rows of them, and picked up a fallen Cruciar scythe limb. "It would have to do. I am Velatha of the Scarlet Suns," she declared, falling into a battle stance beside the human. "I do not yield while I still draw breath." "Hell yeah," the human grinned. "Tech Sergeant Maria Chen, Terran Colonial Marines. Let's make these bugs regret waking up today." They fought back-to-back, alien and human, decorated knight and crashed pilot. Velatha's forearms worked in perfect synchronization, the improvised weapon singing as it carved through chitin and flesh. Beside her, Chun moved with that same impossible fluidity, compensating for Velatha's blind spots, covering her when she overextended, and creating openings that the Velcan warrior exploited ruthlessly. The Cruciar had numbers, but numbers meant nothing against coordination, desperation, and the sheer bloody-minded refusal to fall that both warriors embodied. When the last war beast fell, Velatha and Chun stood in a circle of corpses, both drenched in a mixture of azure, red, and black blood. Chen's armor was cracked in a dozen places. Velatha was fairly certain she had rebroken at least 2 of her arms. They looked at each other. Chun started laughing first, a sound of exhausted relief and lingering adrenaline. After a moment, Velatha joined her, her own laughter a musical trill that her people only made in the aftermath of impossible victory. "So," Chun said, wiping ichor from her face, "you know where a girl can get a decent drink and maybe a shuttle off this rock?" Velatha's laughter redoubled. "If you live through this, human, I will personally sponsor your citizenship in the Imperium. We could use warriors like you." "Yeah." Chen's grin was tired but genuine. "Might take you up on that. But first," she looked toward the horizon where more Cruciar signatures were beginning to appear. "We should probably run." "An excellent tactical assessment," Velatha agreed. As they began moving toward what might charitably be called safety, the Knight Commander made a mental note. Humans, it seemed, were everything the quarantine reports had warned about and more. Dangerous, unpredictable, prone to violence. But if you were surrounded, broken, and facing impossible odds, there was no one else in the galaxy you'd rather have falling from the sky.